Hello and welcome to the Sound Talk podcast. I'm Stephen Kerrison and I run Tall Trees Audio Mastering here in Liverpool.
I'm also in Liverpool. I'm also called Stephen and I'm from What Studio?
Sound Talk is a podcast where each episode we, the Stephens, A and B, 1 and 2, will be chatting to a special guest who we respect and admire about their journey into audio, their approach and working practices, and all things to do with sound. Today's guest is musician and producer Andrew Hung. Andrew spent a good few years as one half of psychedelic noise duo Fuck Buttons and has since gone on to record music under his own name, both as a songwriter and soundtrack composer. He's also produced some great records for other artists such as Beth Orton and Aimee Osbourne. Hi, Andrew.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Oh, how do you distinguish between the Stephens on this?
How would you like to?
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure how to suggest.
I've got no beard. I did have a beard as well, and we were both bearded guys with glasses, so this kind of helps that. I also have like silly long hair, so that helps. I to be honest, I did just sign off an email with the one with the long hair, which I've never done in my life, so piss me off. Because it was the only way I thought that was the clear way to distinguish.
Okay, right, hair length. Okay, we'll go with that one then.
Your hair's long at the moment.
It's really long, isn't it?
No,
it's nice.
Wow. Yeah, it's looking good.
I wouldn't say that, but yeah, it's all right, isn't it? I've always wanted long hair.
Ready to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks good.
It's an excuse for that, isn't it? How's lockdown been for you guys?
I like it. Yeah, I like it. My joke is that I've been preparing to self-isolate for 21 years or whatever it is. So I was prepped. When it happened, I was like, told you so. Are you in your recording shed?
I am, yes.
So I assume you've been all right then, haven't you?
I mean, it's hard to admit that you've been enjoying it, isn't it? Because
Survivor guilt, I think.
Oh, survivor guilt, that's the one. Yeah.
It's distasteful to admit that you've been enjoying it, but a surprising amount of people have said exactly that.
Right. Do you think it's people in our circles?
Yeah. I do.
Because of what we do. We're normally reclusive by nature, right?
Yeah.
That, and you can keep yourself amused for hours with stuff. So yes. That combination is the recipe for 2020.
Yeah, I guess it's like I guess it's different for you though, because you're in the countryside. Have you been? I mean, I guess you haven't. Have you been to London hardly at all in the last year or so?
No. I visited during when they eased the lockdown. Went back then, but it's really eerie. Actually.
Yeah, I bet.
What's Liverpool like? Actually, is it dead?
I don't know. I don't live in the city centre, I don't work in the city centre or anything. So I can my house and my studio are within 10 minutes of each other.
I mean, my studio's in the centre of Liverpool, and I often will take a little stroll down just to see. Just for like fascination reasons, to see the zombie land or whatever, and sometimes it is, and sometimes it's not. It depends. Liverpool's also got a bit of a not so bothered attitude in certain walks, so there's been people just out and about in there. I
like that about Liverpool.
Yeah, it can be problematic at a time like this. But when let's talk about that. That first 2 weeks. That was like the night of the comet or something. It was like everything. There was no one anywhere. Desolate. It was beautiful. You could smell nothing but trees. You could hear birds. It was weird. We'll never experience that again. I think that was a gift.
That's true. We will never experience that again.
It was wild.
Yeah. That was when it was still novel, wasn't it? When people were still making cakes and.
Tell you what else is missing as well. Deadlines, because normally there's stuff happening which you just do things to the deadline, don't you? Because that's what you're doing. And seeing as no one's arranging much, I guess that's that. Booze, food, metal. But no deadlines is a sucker in it, really, because I don't know, I've worked better when I know I've got to finish something as well.
Pressure.
Yeah. Self-imposed ones aren't the same.
They're not the same. No.
Because I can have myself off all day. I'll just change it. You'll never know.
Yes. Yeah. You know what I've been not playing around with, but inspecting is addictive tendencies. I used to think I had an addictive personality. So I thought, I'll look into that, see what happens. Like a couple of weeks ago, I thought, what are the things I'm addicted to? I wonder why I'm addicted to them. And at the time,
now I just cannot get enough of books about addiction. Like I can't get enough of it.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I guess it's important to be bored, I think, isn't it? Is that right?
Devil makes idle hands, something or other. Use leg. I don't know.
I know what you meant.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I guess I wanted to find out what that boredom meant, because I guess this ties into the social media stuff, just like being constantly having someone else's thoughts in your head. So I started inspecting what that voice I was drowning out was saying, i.e. why I was addicted to outrage, for instance. And it was like, it came back to this like, oh fuck, I feel a lot of shame. And it's like, I felt shame all the way through my life. And it just became like over the last week or so, I've just been inspecting this. Why do I feel shameful? Why do I need outrage? You know, like how you feel you can't be wrong when you're angry. Like that outrage, that's, what is it? Righteous indignation.
Yeah.
That's what I'm addicted to with outrage, because I can't be wrong. You know, so I've just been like thinking, why do I have to be right all the time? What, I'm really addicted to Tetris online, right? This is like, I'm quite good at it now. But it's like every time I lose, I think I'm a dick, and then every time I win, I am a dick. Like it's just no win at all. It's like social media. It's like if I get loads of likes on this thing, it doesn't leave me with a sense of I've won, even though that's what I'm looking for. But
to win,
to feel adequate. That's what it is.
Do you think that ties in with why you create as well, and why you put your be it music or art or any other kind of creativity out into the world?
I think so, because when I was younger, I used to carry around a little folder of drawings I did.
Cute.
And it was like my, what was it, proof that I was talented or something, you know. But I had all these other addictions, like I got really good at yo-yoing and ping pong, you know. And nowadays I've got good at Tetris and I don't know, whatever.
It's all going to pay off. It's all going to
It's all going to pay off. It's not though, is it? But like, I guess with like the artistic stuff, you're not really competing. So there's this thing where you're kind of achieving, but it doesn't leave you with that emptiness of, I've still got to prove something, you know, for me anyway. Like that's where the shame has been pointing me towards at the moment. Sorry, I don't know, I've gone off a bit on that one.
Great. I believe the reason Tetris is so popular is because it leaves the record of your mistakes. So it's consistently kind of there that you've got to go, I gotta fucking tidy this lot up. I really have to tidy this load of blocks up. There's a really good documentary about it. I mean, I always consider production, songwriting, the whole whatever, I always consider that's like a giant puzzle, because it's the same kind of principle. It's a record, you know, you do your demo and you think that's fucking horrible. I have to replace that, I need to work on that bit, and you just, you know, you're already fixing this puzzle with this giant undisclosed sided nonsense that you don't even know what you're aiming for, but you have this endless record of it not being correct or finished. Even when you finish, you don't feel that. I know I feel that anyway. What is the importance of production during songwriting for you when you're doing your early stage work?
I'm not sure whether, because I start off with productions, I would classify as production stuff, and they're kind of quite inspirational. But then at the same time, I asked Laura the other day, I was like, what do you do? She's like, I write songs first. So and I did that once. And I was like, oh, that's quite nice because you can fit the production around the song.
Which is the more traditional way to do it, I guess.
It's the more traditional way of doing it. And then I also think that mixing it over and over again creates like sort of a sort of a really slick finish to it, which makes sense as well. But traditionally, you'd mix it right at the end. Sorry, what was the question?
I think you're answering it. It's kind of the importance of at what point does production come in for you, and you just you've kind of just exposed you go the other way to most traditional songwriting formats. So,
what do you do?
Mix, complete mix. It depends what it is, and because I work with other people, it will be, as I'm sure we all do. It depends how they want to take the gauntlet, I suppose. I think if you have a same process, you're going to create the same things. And there's something, even just thinking about that's tiresome, isn't it? So you know you're going to set yourself up with a different challenge each time, usually. I love a little challenge in each little one. Even, if you go, okay, so this thing's got this like funny little rhythm, or this thing's got this, if I've pinched this scale for this. You're always like basing it on something first, I think. Whatever you found or stole or stumbled upon or whatever. And then hopefully that, you said inspires. It's like usually have something that inspires to trigger. It's a trigger point, isn't it, usually?
Yes. I think there are some. Yeah, I think Bowie said that you've got to go into the water just a little bit further until your feet are off the ground, and that's when exciting stuff happens. And so I think that's what you're talking about, like just making it a little bit of a challenge. But then there are some people who just love grinding, like doing the same shit over and over and over and over and over. I don't know. So I guess there's no right or wrong way to do it.
No, definitely not. And I think with you, because your sort of foundation, I guess, has been in working on production and electronic elements rather than sitting with a guitar, that's kind of the easy, natural way for you to do it. And it's how you make sense of it. So like if you were to say to me, I want you to write, I need you to write songs the way I do. So here's a computer, start producing. I wouldn't know what to do.
What do you do?
Write a song.
The traditional way.
Yeah.
Weird.
But that lends itself to the kind of music that I generally make. I think I like working on the edge of my abilities.
Yes.
And I know you do too.
Oh, so you're pushing, you're saying?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's interesting. This is called sound talk, which is about the push and force and pull. Is that?
Yes.
That's an interesting link that's just been made naturally there. I like that. Something.
I'm like, I've worked with you before. I know that you like to work at the edge of your abilities, and I know you like to think a lot about what you're doing, and I know you like to push yourself and put yourself out of your comfort zone. Like, I can, name specific examples that I know that you've done that with. So is that something that you feel is important to the way you work, or is it just a strive to create better art?
I guess it's boring, right? When it's easy. Is it boring? I find it boring.
Gotta be that.
It does make better art. You're more focused when it's not boring. I don't know. You just keep pushing, don't you? You know what I've learned though is not to push too hard now. Like I was pushing really hard like the last few years, but down to the shame. I was just like when I was working with you, Stephen, I didn't even know what keys were. And I started looking into music theory, started doing like singing lessons and mixing, and watched loads of YouTube videos and stuff like that. But I feel like you just learn stuff naturally. I think, unless, when would people not learn? I don't know. Learning is just a natural process, right? For people like us, I think, where we're doing stuff that's unknown. Did you talk about the unknown? You said not reaching for something.
Yeah, I think I literally did mean though, just working within your comfort zone. I think that's what I was getting at, really. Like, and like you said, it's boring. Because plenty of your stuff has been
boring.
It's been working well outside your comfort zone, right?
Yeah.
Especially in the last sort of few years with the soundtracks and solo albums.
Yeah, they were kind of quite. They were really uncomfortable, but but it's okay. It's okay. Yeah.
Can you describe why that was uncomfortable for you, Andrew?
Yeah, I guess generally I haven't historically been very sociable. So working intensively with people has been challenging for that reason. And then also, yeah, I probably lack the musical language to collaborate, I think. Or at least perhaps just the confidence in itself. It was fine though. It was good. It's like, what does outside your comfort zone mean when it comes to mentality? And because outside your comfort zone physically would be, I don't know, running a marathon or whatever.
In an Iron Maiden or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's not comfortable, is it? But what is mentally uncomfortable?
Well, I was just trying to imagine. So the transition from being, in a duo, solo, whatever, but then going to the film land. I mean, the emails alone are thick and fast. The interns, the mixed versions of how you should do things. Whenever these and you're always trying to second guess through someone you may or not met. I would say I would be uncomfortable, and generally am if I'm near any of that. So it's quite a transition from how you work, I guess, or deliver the pieces of work, I guess.
Do you do your own work, as in just you on your own?
I do, but I also play for an ensemble called Apac.
We played with you, right? Once, I'm sure we have.
But it was the same festival we were on, and I think we were like on another room finishing, and then we were on another room doing something. Well, I believe Mugstar were on in another place or something. So
I'm sure we've played with you at Luminaire as well before.
Oh, maybe so. Okay, so was that what upset the rhythm, perhaps?
Yes, I think. So. Yes, wow. It was. Yes, it was.
That's good to know.
I found working on your own is very different to working with other people. I found that the most challenging, actually. Like
on your own,
yeah. I guess because I've never done it. So I guess when I talked about how it was challenging working in those other disciplines, it probably wasn't as hard as working on my own, which I guess I've never done musically. I had a really high opinion of my musical abilities, actually, before I started making the record. And then when I started making the record, I was like, oh shit, yeah, maybe I need to learn some stuff.
What would you define as those difficulties? Is it with working on your own? Is it a case of inspiration or discipline or, self-doubt? Like what kind of things did you find challenging about working on your own for the first time?
I think it's like if you're working on a painting, you can just look at it and go, okay, that's wrong. And then you just walk away and you can judge it very easily. When we're making your own stuff, because you're so intensely in it, that having that distance is really difficult, I think. And so I guess I was talking about what's mentally challenging and what's physically. It's physically challenging, I think. You can't have that. I mean, to gauge a piece of work, you have to listen to the length of it, which can be upwards of however many minutes you've written your track for. And then an album, how many times can you listen to an album before you get sick and tired of it? I found that challenging. I guess when you're working with other people, they can listen to it.
Yeah.
And you can
be
switch
objective
off
as well.
And be objective, yeah. So that was what I found difficult. It's time based. That's why it's difficult. When I was Jim, who did the films that I've worked on, he was going nuts during the edits. And I can see why. You've got to watch these things over and over again. Can you imagine watching a film over and over again? I don't think I could do it.
No.
Yeah, it's hard graft, yeah.
He used to say, I've got one watch in me. Do you know what I mean? It sounded awful.
It's because when you have to, it's the same as when you finish your record, you try your best to have a little distance, don't you? And you try and encourage some kind of objectivity, some form of it. Catch yourself after a dinner, maybe you've had a drink or something, you think, right now. You get a little bit of it before you get back into just listening to it the way you were when you were mixing or something. So I understand that comment, because it's hard to summon up can I listen to this properly again without just listening to the kick drum compressor or some shit.
Do you hear production when you listen to your own stuff, Andrew?
What does production mean?
Like, do you listen to your own thing, and do you find it difficult to listen to the song rather than just go, oh, I remember when I found that preset, gold. Do you listen to your own stuff?
I listened to Realizationship against the other day, and I thought, oh yeah, this is well actually, because at the time I just hated it. But
Did you?
No, I don't generally. Not really.
When was the last time you listened to a Fuck Buttons record?
Yeah, a long time ago. A long time ago. Yeah. Do you listen to your own stuff?
No.
Not for fun or anything.
Not for fun or anything.
Sometimes you have to revisit it to just. I think is in it like, I don't know, for engineering reasons. Perhaps I tend to like just make sure I'm not repeating myself, or I'm not doing the same mistakes I may have done in the past. I always like to just like check things. The unexamined life's not worth living, is it? Plato said that.
What? So what do? You listen?
Yeah, at some point of the procedure, when I'm getting near a record finalization, I might visit the last stuff and go through it in order or something, just to, because it's quite varied, our stuff. So I never know if there's a coherency, and certainly with like at the final stages, to see if it's not exploding or like on fire with like loudness or something like that. So I do like to double check previous things once or twice, just for my own peace of mind.
Oh, right. What have there been points when you've gone, oh, I've done that, or you've had to change anything? Or
yeah, I've just been razor hot. You know, in like year 2005, everything was just, I think it was like, shh, everything was doing a bit of that. So I've calmed that down. and here's the thing, and then I'll listen to it and I think, oh my gosh, it sounds alive, man. You know, and then I'm thinking, well, have I done all this soft fucking -6 stuff all the way through? Why have I done that?
I tend to listen back to stuff just nostalgically these days, if I do listen back to it, because most of the stuff that I've done over the years has been collaborative. So it's not, I don't really necessarily see it as like listening to my own work, and more just kind of listening back to, oh, that was a really nice time with some really nice people, and it reminds me of this time of my life. And, you know, you sort of look back with very rose-tinted glasses, don't you, about that sort of stuff. Whereas, like, if I was listening to something that was my own solo work, I think I'd just be super critical of it and just think about how I could have done it better, which is no fun for anyone, is it?
No, yeah. I can't. There's a part of me that's like, don't judge your own stuff, but then how do you make what you like? So I'm kind of in that sort of tension there.
But you've just finished a new album, haven't you?
I've finished a new album, yeah.
How do you feel about it at the moment?
How do I feel about it? I feel good about it. How do I feel about it? Yeah, I've got something to compare it to now.
That's interesting, yeah.
Yeah, like, yeah, I feel good about it. Like, it feels different to last time, put it that way. Like, last time I fell into a real deep depression, actually, for like a year or something. I don't know. I'm still kind of thinking about why that was, but my perception became quite skew with. But this time, I'm kind of like, I'm very engaged with it, and yeah, I'm happy with how it's come. Yeah, I'm pleased with it. Yeah.
Excellent. No, I mean, yeah, that's really interesting about having something to compare it to. I never really thought about that, actually, because yeah, of course, when you made Realizationship, it was like you didn't have that. Yeah, it was completely in isolation, wasn't it? There was no other parts of your work it could really be compared to, even though
it was. I compared it to Fuck Buttons, and I compared it to, you know, these critically acclaimed albums that I did with like Beth as well, and the Greasy Strangler and stuff. That's what I was talking about. Like, I had a high opinion of myself,
right?
And then yeah, when it came out, I was just like, oh fuck, you know, what have I done? What have I done?
Because it was, I mean, it was funny because there was a lot of talk. I remember a lot of talk at the time, you know, about it being kind of, you know, people were talking about it being so different to anything that you've done before and all the rest of it. Whereas I think if you paid attention, I think if you listen to your work up to that point, there's definitely like a thread that runs through it all, and so there's something distinctive and something really you about it all. And I think if you kind of followed it like that, I don't think it was as surprising as I think people were led to believe, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, I'm Zoe was reading out a few bits of feedback from that first record, and it's very different to how I remember it. Like at the time, I remember thinking, everyone hates it. Everyone hates what I do now. But, you know, now when we read back stuff, it's like, oh, actually, people were really into it. They were really into it. But I didn't pay attention to that stuff. I just paid attention to what have I done.
So you had your head up your ass. Is that what you're saying?
I had my head up my ass. What does that mean? That means I was... Yeah, I guess so, yeah. I had my head up my ass, if you want to put it that way. Yeah, I don't know what that was. How many albums have you released, Stephen? You've released a lot now, haven't you?
What, on my own?
Yeah.
No, I've only...
2?
Well, only one really, but I've done a few little smaller ones, but yeah, only one that I consider to be like an actual record. Yeah, I mean, I made it after you made yours. I was quite inspired actually after working with you a bit. I thought, I'd like to make my own record, I think, because I'd never done one where I'd sung and, you know, stuff like that, written all the songs and all that.
It's great.
Yeah, it took it out of me though. Like I can.
Did it?
Yeah, and it didn't have any kind of, you know, none of the sort of like it didn't have the same kind of platform that yours did. It wasn't getting reviewed in places and stuff, and so I didn't have that kind of microscope. But it's still, yeah, I found it quite an exorcism actually.
What does that mean?
I just found it quite difficult to go deep enough to be able to do something good. Do you know what I mean? Like I felt like,
with that record, you feel? Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I felt I had to kind of really dredge a lot of it up and sort of, and also from a logistical, like technical point of view as well. I'd never recorded and mixed my own record before, so that was a steep learning curve.
Sounds like we had similar experiences.
Kind of the fun bit you had there, though. That's the fun bit.
What do you mean the fun bit?
Well, you know, because it is a curve, isn't it? And it leads to the next one, and I bet it informs the next one like magnificently, and I bet whatever, you know.
I haven't even thought about the next one.
Maybe I have to put that in your head there.
I've immersed myself in just helping other people with their music rather than making my own for the last few years. So it's I don't know why. I kind of feel like it started to feel like a big millstone that I just had to get out. I recorded it like 3 times. I started working on it when I was still working with you, and it took like 2.5 years or something to actually get out. I started from scratch 3 times.
Why?
Because I just hated the way it sounded. And I think it was kind of, I think it was like technical stuff that was holding me back, and the inability to actually get a good performance out of myself just on my own. Because yeah, I mean, so when you made your record, I remember you saying to me that one of the greatest things that you taught yourself was how to mix yourself, and how freeing that was for you. Whereas I was kind of learning that as I was going along and trying to write the songs at the same time. And it was just a lot. It's a lot, isn't it, making a record by yourself?
It is a lot. I think Stephen with the long hair is more of an expert on this than us, right?
Oh, I don't know about expert. Come on, it's just a blagger or something. Expert at which bit?
So how many albums has Apac had out?
We've had a bunch of releases. I think it's like 9 or something, but it's
wow,
4 or 5 albums, I think. Yeah, I get a little bit confused myself.
And you did all that yourself, right? Or
this is the thing. It is a funny little ensemble we have, because it's not me. It is the group, but the group kind of comes and goes. It's hardly a collective. It's not really the right word. It's just kind of people who are invested at the time. And often the people who are in there at the time will leave along a load of tropes in the act. So it's become this kind of hodgepodge of ideas and situations and stuff. So the records are really varied. That's possibly why I listen as well, because as Stephen was saying, it's like a story when you go back, and the people and the times and the recording situations. We've always recorded ourselves. I've mixed and mastered everything or whatever. So there is a lineage through all of it where I give a monkeys about. It's kind of nice. Something to do. Learning curve. I learned how to do it through doing that. So yeah.
That learning curve when you're on your own feels like shit, I think.
I don't know. It's it depends where I was really lucky in some sense, because when I was really young, I listened to foul music, so I was really used to everyone just hating what you listen to anyway. So when someone's, when Mum says, "Oh, it sounds like whatever you listen to, son," or whatever that's, you get used to rejection, right? So there's never been an aim to like please anyone but your own thing anyway. And I think like it's more like regarding getting the performance, we've all done this where you sit for a bit doing it and you start realizing it's like, if I have the headphones on, actually I get into a different world, and actually if I move the mic a little bit to that way, it sounds a bit like it's better now. And you start just like feeling the takes a bit more and understanding that the take is so important, and being in the right frame of mind. And what did you eat today? Did you have loads of milk? Will it get in the way of your vocals if you're singing? And just weird little things. You start being hyper aware of all this nonsense. Maybe.
What do you do with that information? Do you?
It depends what you're doing, because if it's for yourself, it's usually you do your thing until you don't like, you don't hate what you've done. Or more importantly, you play it to someone. This is my key signifier. When you're playing it to someone else and you don't talk over it, and you're actually going, listen to this bit, as opposed to like coughing over little bits or trying not to just let them listen to the proper thing that's happened in that bit. Because you realise that the mix is a load of rubbish because you've put it on in front of someone, and you think, oh, why am I playing this now? It's not ready.
So you've had it when you've played it to someone and you're like comfortable with it?
Yeah.
Wow. I've never been comfortable with playing stuff.
Mainly if it's been pressed to vinyl as well. I immediately went to in my brain. Whenever it goes to vinyl, I always think that sounds right now.
Yeah, but that's easy, isn't it? Because it's already been done.
It's done for you.
It's done. Yeah. There's nothing you can do at that point.
No. Maybe that's part of it. Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, it's great. Right.
Yes. I've got it in my head that I'm going to not tell people anymore until it's totally done. I don't know. Maybe that's bollocks. There is a part of me that wants to do market research, but
sandboxing.
Yeah, it's just bollocks, isn't it? Right? It's like, I don't know. There's a part. There is something interesting about placing so much pressure on an individual. Perhaps it is the logical progression of an ideology of individualism. Perhaps. I mean, like, I was thinking about like painters. They used to do frescoes, and it was a lot of work to do that. You had to mix the paint into the plaster, and they had loads of minions working on their stuff, like the Sistine Chapel and stuff like that. And then suddenly all paints came along, and it became about the individual, and they could do paintings on their own. And it's like that with music. It's like you had to have loads of people to make a record, and then now it's like you can do it on your own. And there's something so interesting about that. But it does mean, do all artists become like Van Gogh and turn a bit mad?
Well, this is one of the reasons why we actually started this podcast, is because there's so much isolation with this kind of job. I mean, not, obviously current situation notwithstanding, like, I think that happens a lot. I think people are kind of working in isolation and then kind of putting their work out into the wider world. And it like that leap is massive, like without that kind of community around you.
I'd argue it's not natural. Like, I'd argue that the inclination for artists solely on their own will commonly lead to poor mental health. How can it not, right?
Absolutely.
Because you're looking in the mirror all the time
Mm-hmm.
and trying to
judging
make
yourself.
it better. You're looking in a mirror trying to make it better.
Oh dear Lord.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm not good enough.
You're constantly.
That's it, isn't it? This
Yeah.
isn't good enough.
Constantly judging yourself as well, and comparing yourself to others too.
Oh, it's bad.
Because how do you tell when your record is good? You go, oh, is it as good as that other record?
Oh God, I've done that. Like, fuck. It was good actually when I talked to a mastering engineer. First mastering engineer I ever talked to was this guy called Stephen Kerrison. Not even shitting you. That's the first one I ever spoke to, right?
Do you know what? I think I know where you're going with this. And I did want to ask you about this. I read in your mail out that you'd spoken to Noel Somerville, who mastered both your records now, isn't it? And that you now understood a lot more about mastering. Like, what did you mean by that?
I didn't understand it. Like, I was mixing to master. I was driving myself nuts with the tonality of it. I think it's good to get in the now. I don't know. Maybe you'll correct me, but all I try to do now is just get it in the right sort of area of tonality. But my main goal is to feel it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I asked, I said to Noel, I was quite intimidated by him. Well, my perception of him. He's a nice guy. I spoke to him on the phone and I said, no, I need to know what the boundaries of responsibility are with mixing. And he said, you want to know when mixing stops and mastering starts? I was like, yeah, that is what I want to know. And he said, just make it as good as you want. I was just like, oh God, okay. And then just fucking, this weight was lifted.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think not just what he said, but how he said it gave me that confidence. I was reading your website about what mastering was in terms of the frame and putting it in terms of a painting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's like, just do what you want and let the mastering engineer just make it palatable.
I did nick that idea. It's not. I didn't come up with that myself, but there's quite a lot of analogies like that. You take a great picture and by the time it goes into a magazine, it's going to be light adjusted and it's going to be slightly cropped in order to fit in with the text. That sort of stuff. It's like the kind of contextualizing of the music in the wider world, I suppose, which makes a lot of sense. Yeah, Noel Somerville did the Sons of the Gwee record as well.
Oh, did he?
That you produced.
That I produced, yeah. Shackle's Gift. That's quite dark, isn't it?
It's a dark record. It was a dark time.
It is a dark time.
Yeah, I felt really bad actually because we forgot to credit Noel on the cover. Such bad form.
Yeah, it's bad that. And look at you now being lost.
I know.
Imagine that. That's karma. That.
I hope the same thing happens to you, Stephen.
Twice.
I pray that the same thing happens to you.
Sheepman.
Yeah, production's interesting. I wanted to talk to you about producing other people. I think your approach to production is quite interesting, and I think it's quite a little bit unconventional. I think so. What does being a producer to somebody else's music mean to you?
It means getting the best out of them. That's what it means. I think so. Whatever I'm needed for. I mean, it's like, but yeah, definitely it's my experience has been get the best out of the artist. I guess I've worked with people who have had budgets, who have had technical staff, so I've never had to think about that stuff. A lot of it's just like, I don't know. The performance is really important. It's really important. It's the most important thing, in fact, in my opinion. And I guess from a very early stage, I realized that like pumping people full of confidence is something that I do quite well. And I make it sound really I think people just do so well when they're confident. Production, yeah, producing other people is just getting the best out of people. That's what I think.
Yeah. So you worked on what's the last thing that was it the Aimee Osbourne album, the last thing that came out that you were involved in?
Yeah.
So what was that like? Did you do that with her was it LA?
I did that with her in LA. She came over for a couple of days. And what does pre-production mean?
Okay. Yeah, pre-production, the idea that you form a relationship with the artist first before you even get into the recording studio, and you listen to their songs and you kind of get a feel for how they want to work. I think and then so by the time you actually go to the studio, you're not going in dry. You've got a really good idea of what to do, and the songs have already been sort of thrashed out and stuff. I think that's the general gist of what pre-production means, right?
I mean, that process is really important. Now that you've put a label on it, yeah, that's really important. What I was just thinking about is a book that we've read is The Chimp Paradox. It's a book that's written by this dude who he's a psychologist, but he's a sports psychologist, so he's helped doesn't matter anyway. But one of them is, so it talks about how we've got this primal self, and it's important to give this primal self boundaries. But another thing would be to provide a troop, its gang, for it to feel safe. And I guess when I was talking about the confidence, pumping someone full of confidence, which sounds quite shitty, but it's just being a mate to someone, really. And making sure they feel safe. I remember talking to a band who I didn't produce in the end, but I remember saying to them, "Yeah, I just think it's important to feel safe, man." And they were like, "What the fuck are you talking about, mate?
Step too far."
Yeah, step too far for that." But yeah, it's providing that sort of. I was quite aware of Aimee being Ozzy's daughter, and I was aware that I wonder how people treat her, and I didn't want to treat her like I knew she was Ozzy's daughter. I wonder if that happened or anything. But then at the same time, I guess I didn't really have a relationship with her dad's music, to be fair. And I wanted to work with her before I even knew she was Ozzy's daughter. When I heard her music, I was like, God, this voice is really good, actually. It's really powerful. Yeah, I guess when we first met, you know what I think it's important to do. My experience has been when working with, who have I worked with? I worked with Beth and Aimee, the women producers, is that often they're quite dismissed in the studio. And often I shove that keyboard in front of them and go, just play something you like. Aimee didn't go for that. But when I was playing on the keyboard, I was constantly going, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? What do you think of this? Like, on one hand, I'm like, I don't want to take that responsibility because I want them to be involved in it. It will be better if they're involved in it. Have you guys started, do you learn a lot of stuff from who you talk to?
Yeah.
Really, surprising how every single person we spoke to, I've definitely gone away thinking about it a lot for ages on so many different points. Yeah. If only this was what you did every week with someone. One of the frequent things we keep asking is, do people meet up with people, have mentors, specifically engineers who might have a teacher or a mentor or another studio they work at. Do you have anyone who you can reflect to, or is it all on your shoulders?
Mostly it is on my shoulders, but there are people who I will phone up in desperation. But I guess that's when you would phone them up, right? It'd be nice to have someone to go, like a tutor or something. Oh, this is what I've done this week. What do you think? But I'm not sure if that's necessary or whatever. But yeah, I was thinking about mentors recently. Do you have mentors?
No, I think it's especially in studio land. I think it's something that that used to be a big thing, didn't it? Like you'd learn to be an engineer by kind of interning at a studio for a bit, and it just doesn't really happen anymore at all.
I wonder if it's just YouTube,
which is a slippery slope.
YouTube.
That's a slippery slope for sure.
There's the problem with YouTube is that there's some really, really, really valuable stuff on there, really fantastic, and there's stuff on there that you really would not want to be following the advice of, but they're presented on the same platform with absolutely no discrimination.
That's the stuff you want to be watching. Fellas shouting at cameras, stuff like that. And out there, Stephen. That's the good stuff. You really.
There is good stuff though. You can learn a lot for sure.
Oh heavens!
Yeah. Like how did you learn? Like how did you learn how to how to EQ stuff and compress stuff and mix? Basically, how did you learn to do that?
Yeah, it takes a lot of. God, YouTube's like TK Maxx, isn't it? There's like one good bit of clothing on it, isn't there?
It's packed in tight, isn't it?
Yeah, it's packed in tight. Yeah,
and everything on there's nearly right, but not quite.
Just hundreds of ski suits, onesies.
It's like that, though, isn't it? Like, fuck, man, it is slippery. Yeah, I guess there's this point when I was just when I was looking for answers, I was quite suggestible. So I'd go on YouTube and go, oh God, maybe I do need to do that. Maybe I do need to put that on this track or whatever on. But yeah, I think it's hard to have an opinion on it, to be honest with you. That's how fucking difficult it is. I don't really have an opinion on it.
A friend of mine said had a really good attitude to it. He said that he watches quite a lot of YouTube stuff about production, literally just to get ideas. So he'll see something being done and go, "Oh, I'd quite like to try that." And that's kind of that's like as much as he takes from it, rather than thinking that something's like this is correct. You can just go, "Oh, that's quite a good idea. I'll try that." I think it's good for that.
There's always some. Usually, how they do cable management, you're like, "Oh, that looks good. I like the way they've got that little thing around the back of the table. That's cool."
So, are you mostly you're self-taught then, essentially, in terms of your production skills?
Yes. Is that more interesting? I'm just thinking about whether that's more interesting. Do you know what I mean?
Than what?
Having mentors.
I don't think one's better than the other. I think there's pros and cons to both for sure.
When I go into a gallery, right, the old paintings are really boring for me, and it's the new stuff where they're more individualistic that interests me. But maybe that's just to do with taste, isn't it?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, though.
Maybe you're in flux as well. Maybe as you get older, you change that opinion. Maybe you go the other way with time, perhaps.
Into liking more traditional stuff.
Potentially. Or
right.
Looking at it in a different way or something like that.
Are you consuming more now?
Yes. I didn't watch anything for years. In fact, I've caught up on all the films I should have been watching from 30 to 40 because I just stopped watching things because I needed to do work. Whereas now I've got a few extra hours a day. Don't have children, you know. I've been doing Star Wars all week. How predictable. In the order rather than the release order.
What? Did you watch them before, or you just?
Yeah, but like flippantly. Whereas I'm actually paying attention now and again. I've been quite upset most evenings.
Wow, that's amazing.
Sorrel bought me a great book for Christmas called The Dharma of Star Wars.
Ooh.
And it explores all the links between Star Wars and Buddhism.
Oh wow.
It's really cool. It's
probably ripe.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing. It's a really interesting book. I thought about it when you were talking earlier about sort of the
solitude.
Solitude, yes. When you were doing your solitude, it made me think about Buddhism actually, and how that kind of works, and what you hope to achieve from meditation. So yeah, it made me think about that a lot.
That's interesting.
It's a good book.
I got a question for both of you here, seeing as you're both in front of me. What's your favourite silly word to describe sound? Like squishy, when people say make it,
Oh, I see.
or wobble. Or can you wobble it? Or I like it when people describe things and they say, "Ooh, it's a bit toppy," and that's what they give you. I like that.
I get. You do get quite a lot of requests at the mastering stage. It's like, yeah, I think it sounds good, but could you just give it a bit of sparkle?
I bet that's a cracking one. Yeah, but that repeats.
Yeah, get that a lot. Could you just sprinkle some of your magic dust on it?
60s dust. That's your Lars, isn't it?
That's your Lars.
Lars Pope, 60s.
And usually though, it's because we talked earlier about not having the musical language to sort of talk in these ways. It's like, well, of course people are going to use the terms like that because they're not they shouldn't have to know, frankly. If they're being like creative people, they shouldn't need to go like, oh yeah, if you could just give it like a nice sort of gentle shelf at 12k, that would really, no one's going to say that. They're going to say, could you add a bit of sparkle? But essentially they're mostly just talking about a couple of little EQ moves.
Is that usually what it is?
Yeah.
Behind sparkle is 12k.
Yeah, about that. A gentle shelf.
That's sparkly.
Yeah. But yeah, depth as well. People talk about depth. I'd like something to have more depth.
Half the problem is the translation. I think when guitarist B says, "I want more depth on my one mic'd guitar," that could mean space of like reverb, or it could be spread. Where the depth were X, Y, or Z, and I think sometimes you have to translate how low he wants to go in which direction or whatever. So like, there's all kinds of stuff, isn't there? Yeah, and it's been going on for a very, very long time as well. That the sample delay is like more important than anything you can kind of think of in your bag of tricks in some ways, because that's why when you go into older studios, they've got like 15 EMS sample delay rigs. You think, what are all these boring things for? They don't sound very good, but it's just because of dealing with that type of stuff.
Can you overdo that stuff?
Can you overdo it? Yeah, you can get it very wrong, because you could just tilt the mix quite easy. You can ruin phase. It's because often they're used to correct phase, so that's, if you've got a multi-mic drum kit thing, you're going to be tapping certain things further and further, just trying to get it all sit as we've all experienced. But then if you get that wrong, you can really butcher something,
I think, I find that stuff's really, really difficult because I work with I generally only work with stereophiles. So if I want to make something big and wide, I'm making the entire thing big and wide. But in mixing, if someone wants a guitar to be big and wide, and then the bass player wants to be big and wide, and the drums want to be big and wide, by the time you've made everything big and wide, surely nothing's big and wide.
That's the discussion with the band, isn't it? That's where the negotiation balance comes. That's where you start managing humans.
Wow, fuck. Okay. Wow. You said translation and negotiation. I've been drawn to those words.
Yeah.
So there sounds like a lot of management of people's expectations, maybe. I don't know.
I think that's it's this buddying thing again, isn't it? You've got to keep everyone in the game, even though a bass player might be sitting down on his phone or wherever. He's still got to keep kind of referring to them during the thing, so everyone's on the table and on the same page, and other such metaphors.
Shit, that sounds like a lot of work.
It's more work, yeah.
That's why the idea of mastering appealed so much, because I just sit by myself.
Bands do get in the way of that music, don't they?
They certainly do.
All up in your face with the wanting stuff.
Yeah, I do quite like the idea of doing like attended sessions. I've never actually done an attended session.
Mm.
I've never done. I mean, I kind of. I do. Yeah, I do quite like the idea of it, actually. Because I never used to. Because when you first learn and you're like, oh no, I'm going to be exposed as a total fraud here. But then I kind of feel a bit more like I know what I'm doing now. So
It's performance anxiety, isn't it? Really.
I remember. I remember you saying, Andy, that you felt anxious about opening up your sessions in front of Jim when you were editing Beverly Luff Linn.
Oh yeah, because there weren't many tracks, maybe.
Yeah, I just remember you saying, and I completely understand, like opening up a session in front of somebody is like, it's like, yeah, I wouldn't want to do that.
Do you mean like physical tracks in the door? There wasn't enough.
There wasn't enough stuff. Yeah,
200 tracks there. He's not gonna.
Yeah.
Oh, that's an interesting thought.
Yeah. That's the shame again, isn't it? That's the inadequacy.
Full on shame.
Yeah, full of shame.
But I think this is one thing that because obviously I've been thinking about stuff, in kind of mastering terms for so long now. But I think people ask quite a lot. Like, I've heard people ask, like, how can you justify charging someone like hundreds of pounds to do like a 0.5 dB shelf, and then like a 2-to-1 compression doing like 1 dB, and it's like, well. It's not what you're doing. It's like you're paying me because I know that exactly where that shelf needs to be and exactly where that compressor needs to be set by listening to your music. So I feel less kind of shame as you're putting it now. And I guess it's the same as like opening up your session. It's like, it doesn't matter how many tracks there are. The fact that you've put that there and you've decided that's what is best for that means that that's what it is. People are paying you for what you think, not necessarily what you actually do, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's also what you don't do is really important. Like,
sure,
that's as much of an action as an action.
Definitely.
More so, I'd say. Like,
well, yeah, it's the cooking analogy, isn't it? It's like, if you hear people say, oh, on every session I always use this, and it's like, but that's nuts.
God, yeah, I'm scared of doing stuff like that. I mixed this record like 3 times, each of them in a different way. Actually, last time I did, I used that plugin that you like, Stephen, the adapter metric.
Oh, the metric AB, yeah, it's good, isn't it?
It is good.
There it is.
Oh yeah,
keeping tabs.
Yeah, it's really good. That I think all of this stuff and all of these techniques, and I think it's obviously it's all really good. It's good knowledge because you've got to know how to get to where you want to go, but nothing will tell you better like where you should be going than just using reference tracks. Like it's just so easy to tell if you play something that sounds good and then you play the thing next to it. If it sounds shit, then you've got work to do. And it's like, I guess it's just being able to identify what the differences are. I think that takes quite a lot of practice of sort of knowing why it sounds different and what you need to do to make it sound as good as the other thing.
Having a really good record collection, I think. If anyone who's got just a fantastic taste, I find they can't half do it good. It seems to be parallel. The more you know.
The more you know. Yeah.
Lovely. What a lovely insight.
Oh, thank you very much for that. That was great.
Yeah, it was really amazing to chat to you. Yeah, thank you so much, Andy, for chatting to us. It's been brilliant.
No, thank you. I've got a lot of wisdom from this.
Same.
Yeah.
And I hope our listeners have as well.
Yeah. Oh, goodbye.
Let's do a goodbye.
Right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.